welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Flyer. My name is Derek. This is episode 17. It's our trade deadline special. I'm going to point at you and fling things like a pen in your face. This is Taylor. Taylor, hey, say hi to the folks.
What up,
All right,
y'all?
thank you for saying hi.
Lot to cover.
Yeah, we've condensed it a little bit as we sometimes can. The schedule this past week will help us do that because there weren't a lot of, I'll say, games that jumped out. There was kind of a run-of-the-mill week for once. I think that's fair. But then we have a lot to talk about when it comes to the 9 segment. Normally, we start off with our 9 segment, but we save in that. We're going to save that. We're going to put the juice at the end, juice at the caboose. That's what we're doing. Right now, we're going to start off. We're going to jump right into the review. I know you like that. We're going to jump right into the review of week 8 and real quick fantasy review because I want to chit chat real quick. I got destroyed this week because I did not have Patrick Mahomes or Ezekiel Elliott. How did your week go? You're almost in sell mode. We covered this in the pre-show. You're like sell mode. Trade deadline.
I had a decent week, but I just don't see my team being able to win the whole thing. So at this point with my record, I'm starting to think about selling and a mini rebuild, if you will.
There comes a time in every fantasy team's life. Sometimes
I feel like I've been in rebuild mode for years, but I finally tried to make a move this season and go after JT, which has not worked out. So have the Lions.
So the Lions. So don't feel so. Yes, you have JT, you have Aaron Jones, Javonte Williams, who
right.
Yeah. Who else?
Dameon Pierce, which has worked out.
That's gonna turn out really good for you next year. That's the best part of it. You already have like that one piece because he's not. It'd be stupid for the Texans to do anything with him.
Right.
That'd be stupid. He's one person who you can actually like trust to be back and do something because he's doing something now.
Right.
DJ Moore. You have so many good pieces that just haven't worked. Like DJ Moore got dealt a bad hand this year. Julio Jones has been injured and he's cheap. Like you won't go out and find him on your normal ESPN or Yahoo league. But here at a cheap price, Julio Jones has a lot of value. And it just seems like that didn't work out. Debo's been injured a couple times. Now he has another piece to kind of compete with. It's rough. I send out my condolences.
It's the way of fantasy, unfortunately.
Yes, it is. All right, so we'll start right off with our week 8 review. We'll kind of touch on some of the fantasy overlay from all these games. We'll start off with the 9:30 game. That was 9:30 on Sunday. Broncos and Jaguars. Broncos won this one 21-17. What was a fairly decent back and forth game. Both teams came into this with 4-game losing streaks. Broncos snap it. They go to 3-5. Jaguars, I believe, are now 2-6, and I'd say that's out of most divisions except for the fact that the AFC South is atrocious. It's just really bad. Trevor Lawrence has been equally bad over his last 4 games. He's not been particularly good, and the one game he was good in was against the Colts, and the Colts still won that game because Matt Ryan was probably the best he's been all year in that game. So, I think this was a big rebound that Denver needed. Jerry Jeudy led the team in targets.
With only 7.
Right.
It's not a lot.
It's not a lot. Wilson threw for 30 times. So between Cortland Sutton, who I'll mention again in a minute, but between Cortland Sutton, Greg Dulcich, who is effectively, I think, a top 12 going forward, top 12 tight end, and at very worst, top 15. He just seems to already, in only 3 games, he's averaging 12 fantasy points in 3 games. And one of those was with Brett Ripien. So, effectively locking in Dulcich on if you got him on a waiver wire through an ESPN league or Yahoo league, congratulate yourself because he could be very valuable down the stretch. On the Jacksonville side, this game entirely centered around Travis Etienne, which is fine. We saw the trade happen with James Robinson. He goes off to the Jets. Now Travis Etienne is the lone person to run this backfield, and he did it. 24 carries, 156 yards, had a touchdown, had 3 catches. Didn't do a lot with the catches, but especially in PPR leagues, it doesn't hurt. I am happy to finally see ETN come around. I know it took a trade to kind of convince everyone, but it's going to be a thing going forward. Lawrence was 18 for 31, 133 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Ugly stat line.
Yeah.
Evan Ingram, four catches on 6 targets, 55 yards. He had a early touchdown. I forgot to change my tight ends on Sunday morning.
Uh-oh.
I woke up at 10 o'clock with Evan Ingram and Greg Dulcich in my lineup. And I went, oh, they both play at 9 a.m. I forgot about that. And it turned out to work out okay. Tyler Conklin is my other one who I just picked up, and I wasn't thinking of playing him, but I should have because he had 25 fantasy points. But no, they did fine. Dulcich was 4 catches on 5 targets for 87 yards, had the most yards for the Broncos.
And he had some long throws too. Longest was
well,
38.
They all came on the same drive. He had one catch. He had 1 catch in the first half. Yeah, I remember. I was doing some cleaning around the old apartment here, or maybe I wasn't, and I was being lazy. I don't know. And I had the TV on to NFL Network, and they were doing like cutbacks and or updates or whatever it is. And Russell Wilson came out of the half, in the first drive out of the half, like 3 catches. One was like 13. One was, I don't know, like 20. And then the last one was the 38-yarder. And he went down on the 1-yard line. That was the touchdown for Latavius Murray, which infuriated me slightly. But also I was like, man, I'll take what I can get. Because they would have been the 2 fantasy winners other than Travis Etienne would have been Evan Ingram and Greg Dulcich. So being that I have those 2, Tyler Conklin, Darren Waller, my tight end position for the first time in my 4 years in this league is solid. Meanwhile, in the rest of Denver, Jerry Jeudy is convincingly more effective than Courtland Sutton at this point. I've effectively put Courtland Sutton in a flex conversation, and that's it. Wide receiver 3 on a good day, maybe. But I just feel like there's so many other options there. I don't think I can trust Courtland Sutton anymore. I guess
I don't know. It's a little funky because I would have said coming into this week that they were very close, and that honestly it seemed like Courtland Sutton, not seemed like, I'm pretty sure he has more targets overall, but the one game with Ripien and now this game, it seems like there's been a little shift. I'm not quite sure why that is, because a lot of fantasy people you listen to before the season, other things I was reading, it just seemed like the consensus was Courtland Sutton was the 1A, if not the 1. And it kind of seemed like that for most of the season, but Jerry Jeudy was like nipping at his heels, and now it seems like I said, there's been a shift. So, I mean, I love to see it as a Jerry Jeudy owner, but I can't tell if that's their game plan moving forward, if it's, I mean, I don't want to say the youth, Sutton's not that much older, or if, and I won't say in this game that that's the case, but if in certain cases he's just getting the number 1 DB covering him.
I mean, you're going back. This is now 4 straight games where you really don't have any love for Courtland Sutton. Like you brought up the last 2. The game before that was against the Chargers. He had 2 catches for 14 yards. The game before that against the Colts, that ugly Thursday night football game that haunts our memories, he had 5 catches for 74 yards. That was his last game where he was playable. Denver now is on bye, so the good news is you can't play him this week. Although if you do, you might score the same amount of points they'll give you anyway. But no, I mean, it's a gamble at this point. I just seeing that pattern start to develop, and especially because that coincides, like the first game where he falls off is Greg Dulcich, when Greg Dulcich comes to play. And clearly Russell likes Dulcich enough to load up passes to him. It's not like Judy's getting out of the, getting shut down with any of these plays either. I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in Cortland Sutton for right now. When we talk about it in 2 weeks, maybe it's the Titans who allow a fair amount of points to wide receivers, so it may be a good opportunity for Cortland. And the other side of this for this team is that I like Murray over Gordon, and I only like that so much as to say I don't know what's going to happen with the Chase Edmonds incoming. I wrote this last night before that trade today, which we'll talk about later. But I do like Latavius Murray over Gordon in any stance. And I said this to you in the pre-show. Going out and getting Chase Edmonds tells me that Gordon will not be. He's not going to see 40% of snaps next year.
Right.
And I think that's. I mean, we're kind of already seeing it with Latavius Murray. Now, what happens when you get Javonte Williams back?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember what they only signed him to another 1 year, right? I don't see Gordon coming back next year with the Broncos.
I hope for both his sake and the team's that's the case.
Yeah.
Because he's probably second in the league behind Elijah Moore for just very unhappy players. Players that are just not in a spot where they want to be. And that may be the player's fault, that may be the team's fault, that may be both, but that's where I rank them. So Murray had 14 carries, 46 yards, and a touchdown. I think he had like one catch, maybe two. He's getting the RB1 work out of the two. It's a 60-40. And when Javonte Williams comes back, who can do all of the things Melvin Gordon can, and then some. So Wilson, 18 for 30, 252 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Jacksonville takes on the Raiders next week. Denver is on bye. I don't have anything else from this game. Good win for the Broncos.
Yeah.
We talked about that on Thursday or on a Friday show too. We said something about this game feels like Russell Wilson is going to do it, and he did.
Yeah, this is good for them going into the bye. So yeah, hopefully they continue to take. It seems like they're taking these micro steps forward. So hopefully it continues, but they definitely need to start turning up these this trend and really kick it into high gear, else they're definitely out of it.
Yeah.
Out of the hunt.
Agreed. They are, crazily enough, with the loss to the Jets and the Bengals losing last night on Monday Night Football and the Broncos winning, they're actually still heavily in the wild card conversation. Jets, it's the AFC East is going to determine how that works out, but that's a big win for them. So next game we'll talk about Cowboys and the Bears. Cowboys win this one 49-29. This was a fun game to watch for a Cowboys fan. And honestly, if you're a Bears fan, you should not be disheartened by watching this game, any of the footage. The Bears played a heck of a football game. It's not many times you get to say we put up a good 29 points and we lose by almost 3 touchdowns. Because the Bears really didn't do a lot wrong in this football game. Cowboys moved to 6-2, but the Bears just simply played better than their score indicates, I think. Real quick, I'll talk about the Cowboys because I could talk about them for probably 20 minutes after this game. I won't, but this level of Dak is what makes the Cowboys dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very safe to say that. He was 21 for 27, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. The one interception was a forced pass. It's still an interception. It actually allowed the Bears to get another 3 points on the board. That was at the end of the first half. And that was the closest that the Bears really ever were. But other than that interception, Dak was, I dare say, flawless in this game. He also carried the ball 5 times, had 34 yards. He ran in a touchdown on the first drive. So fantasy managers rejoice. Dak is on his way. I'm not going to say the ugly phrase that is in all of Cowboys fans' heads. The other point to this is that Tony Pollard was explosive. He was monstrous. The Bears are bad.
Zeke.
So that's Jerry Jones has said that Zeke is the RB1 and we go as Zeke goes. And they, in my opinion, need Zeke. I know Pollard is great. He's more of the outside run, but he's not that great up the middle.
Yeah,
He's really not. He's about 25 pounds too light for that.
right.
But he can, when he gets to the outside, he gets to an edge. Man, that boy can take off.
He's more of an Austin Eckler.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Even Eckler, I think, is better in the middle when he runs inside runs.
Probably.
Finds
Yeah.
an A gap or a B gap. Pollard, I feel like he can maneuver and get an extra couple of yards. He'll pick up 4, 5, 6, and he is averaging, I think, 5.4 yards per carry this year, which is like, it's up there. Like Nick Chubb is like 5.5 in his career, and that's the only, like, in Pollard's career, that's where he's is too. So he's close. And then he had 14 carries, 131 yards, 3 touchdowns. And that was the man of the day, or
Yeah.
he definitely was in my DraftKings lineup, I'll tell you that. Had a catch for 16 yards. CD Lamb, 5 catches on 7 targets, 77 yards, and his first touchdown of the year.
No, really?
That's what I'm checking. I'm trying to see. I feel like that's a lie. I feel like he had one other.
I see 3.
Oh, yeah, it was 3?
Yeah.
So that's good. Okay. That's almost disturbing that was a thought in my head. It was another well-placed pass from Dak, though. Dalton Schultz still very, very in fuego with this offense. 6 catches, 7 targets, 74 yards. The offense altogether had to have 500 yards or so. I'm in that ballpark.
Yeah,
No,
something like that. Maybe
it's
4.
a little under. It's in the mid fours.
Yeah.
The important thing to talk about on the other side, however, is Justin Fields, who I think he took another step forward. This is a tough defense. At their best, probably the best defense in the league. When all their pieces are working. Their secondary pieces are insane for Dallas. And Fields was 17 for 23, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, had 60 yards on the ground, another rushing touchdown. Chicago, for all intents and purposes, played like they did last Monday. I don't see anything that
Yeah.
would indicate otherwise.
Yeah. That's sort of what I was gonna say is like even though it's only 150 yards throwing, his ability to run the ball just opens up the offense so much more and allows them to get their running backs really involved. So I mean they have a 3-headed monster on running back here. They have Khalil Herbert who had 99 yards and Montgomery who had 53. So like not to mention Field 60. So that's a ton of ground yardage right there. Which I mean it's more than the throwing yards, but altogether that's a solid, a respectable amount just for the team. And like you said, they played opening Fields up like this allows the team to actually play well. And yeah, they continued the game plan that worked last week, and I think that this is great for the entire team moving forward. Obviously, you would like to see a win from them here, but they played very respectable against a very on fire Dallas team.
If Dak takes a step back from last week, this is probably a Bears win. And honestly, I saw that happening that's why when we were talking about the over-unders on Friday's show, I said, I don't think this 10 points is a good spread. Because I think this is more of a 3-5 point game. Comes down to the last of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, this was like everything went Dallas's way. If it hadn't been that way, this would have been much closer.
Yeah, and to say that, and the Bears still put up 29 points. You did something right. Like you said, Herbert had 99 yards. Darnell Mooney, 5 catches on 5 targets, 70 yards, and a touchdown. With the way Fields is playing, he's not throwing for 250 yards. I'm okay with bringing Mooney back into a flex or wide receiver 3 conversation with wide receiver 2 upside. This would have been one of those wide receiver 2 weeks, realistically. He had 19 fantasy points. N'Keal Harry had his first touch. Yeah.
He didn't have, I don't see a touchdown. Am I missing something?
Yeah, you're blind. No, I'm just kidding. Did I put it in the wrong spot? I very easily could have. Would not be the first time.
Yeah, I'm looking in two places. I don't see a touchdown for Mooney.
You see the one for Harry, N'Keal Harry.
Yeah.
Oh, was it Cole? Maybe it was Cole Kmet.
Yes, he did have a touchdown.
Kmet had his first touchdown since the fall of 2020.
Right.
Still, I'm still okay with bringing Mooney back into this conversation.
Yeah. No, I was just double checking the
You're
touchdown
right.
because
You're right.
yeah, and like half point PPR, I see 9.5 points. So for PPR, yeah, he's got to
That's
be
dead on.
like, he's got to be in
He's gonna-
the
He's gonna have
mid-teens.
12.
Yeah,
12.
low
Yeah.
mid-teens.
I'm still like I said, I'm still standing by that. Mooney is he's a fantasy player again. You
Yeah.
worked your way through it. If they can keep this going, they play Miami, who's just got a little bit of a boost. The Bears play Miami this week in Chicago, so I think the spread on that game will probably only be 4 or 5 points.
That now actually seems like it could be a good game.
Right, and I'm very interested to see how both teams handle this because the Bears defense is naked now, besides their secondary. But that's all that Miami really attacks is secondaries. Jaquan Brisker, Kyler Gordon were actually pretty good in this game too. Cowboys got a bit of a boost from a boo-boo and a monster of Micah Parsons than a boo-boo. Did you happen to catch that play that I absolutely flipped out?
Oh, I can't hear you anymore.
Okay. All right. Now we're hiccups always happen.
We got you
So
back. We got you back.
we're good. Did you happen to catch that play with Micah Parsons at all?
I did not know.
You did not? Okay. So we'll break it down real quick. Bears are throwing, it's like I think it's third down. Micah gets behind Justin Fields. So like around the edge, left guard pushes him out. Fine. Almost gets the sack, almost got a hand on Fields. Before he does it, Fields chucks it maybe 10 yards to Montgomery. Long
Okay.
way to go. Long way to go. I think it's Montgomery.
It is, yeah, I see the fumble from him.
There you go. Okay. So he gets makes a great move for Montgomery. And then he somehow gets the ball comes out, it fumbles, and it starts tumbling over away from the tackle. Micah Parsons ran downfield after the pass was thrown, almost caught Montgomery. The ball fumbles out. He jumps on top of it. Justin Fields follows him, and instead of touching Parsons while he's down, jumps over him. Parsons gets up and runs it in for a touchdown.
Ugh.
He had to run I'm guessing he probably ran 50 to 55 yards on that play.
Wow.
And that was just to come up, get
Right,
behind
back
the
and forth.
quarterback.
Yeah.
Yep, back to the ball and then back to the end zone. And I was like, how are you? Like the Bears aren't playing. That was like the one thing that the Bears did wrong was that he didn't touch Micah Parsons there. It probably would have still ended in at least 3, if not 7 points.
Mm.
But that was the only thing. And Parsons just ran. I was literally like, how are you going to stop that, man? Anyway, I'm excited to see where the Bears go from here. I will actually have some interesting football games to watch because the Cowboys won't be on this week. And I think that Bears and Dolphins game is one of them. I'm excited to see what Fields does this week. Anything else from this one for you?
No, I'm in the same boat. Excited to see what Chicago does moving forward now that they've seemed to figure something out, and it's nice to have Dak Prescott back.
Yeah, especially for your fantasy team, right? We'll still go with that. Next game, Seahawks and Giants. This was one of our host v host games, and the Giants. We both picked the Giants on this one. Boy, did we hold that L.
Yeah.
Seahawks played well. I'd say this was the Giants' real first underperformance. Daniel Jones and Saquon weren't comfortable almost ever in this game. I don't know if it was like a pressure. I don't know. Like Jones wasn't making good throws at times. The run game never got going versus a team that's supposed to be very bad against the run.
Right.
And it seems like that was kind of the way that the Seahawks, the angle kind of came in is just stop the run, make them throw. It ain't going to happen. And if it wasn't for a Tyler Lockett fumble on the 3-yard line in the second quarter, this game's probably 30-6. I would say roughly.
Something like that. Yeah.
Like it's bad. Darius Slayton, I would say Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson are going to be your two Giants targets going forward, depending on if Daniel Jones keeps throwing the ball. He was 17 for 31, 176 yards, 20. He had 20 rush yards, but you kind of want to see in the mid 200s before you start breaking out the Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson for your fantasy team, in my opinion.
Yeah. The Wan'Dale Robinson usage this game was crap.
Good thing we didn't take him.
Yeah, they got Tanner Hudson involved from the tight end perspective, which, all right, that's fine. But yeah, to your point, the running game was just not there for them, and it's very strange up against Seattle that they couldn't get that going because A, Saquon Barkley has been a huge part of this offense, and B, Daniel Jones with some designed runs has been a part of this offense as well. Only 20 yards for him. Last game he had 107 or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that aspect of their game, which has really been sort of a huge part of their drives, just was not there. And so to put a little more on the receiving game, which has always been my concern or hesitation or lack of faith in Daniel Jones, is his ability to move the ball in the air.
Right.
That just did not work for them.
No. Slayton had 5 for 6 with 66 yards. I think Hudson had 3 catches. I don't know how many targets he had. I didn't write it down.
5 targets.
It's the Giants arguably could have made a push for Jerry Jeudy today. I heard the price. I don't know what the asking price was, but I heard it was too much for the Giants. Smart. You're doing well with what you have. Like you're now 6-2.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are also 6-2. The Eagles are 7-0. So no, 7-0. Yeah, 7-0.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they've had their bye. So give it time. I would say the rest of the NFC looks ugly. You're a full 2 games ahead on the wild card. See, 4-4 in the NFC West. It's 3-5 in the NFC South. NFC North, the Bears are 3-5, as are the Packers now.
Mm-hmm.
So you got 2 games on anybody in the wild card. Don't make any moves. Keep going with what you're going. Schedule isn't all that tough for them, I don't think. I think actually the Eagles, Giants, and Cowboys are 3 of the bottom 5 in strength of schedule for the rest of the year. So, yeah, I like them not doing anything on the trade deadline. I like the team going forward still. This is just the Seahawks that came out and looked better. Gino loves him some Tyler Lockett.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty clear. This was a mediocre performance for Kenny Walker, I would say.
Yeah.
It's almost like they both came in, Giants and Seahawks came in and said, let's stop the run, and it worked. And then one team could throw the ball and the other couldn't. I am not confident. I'm okay. I guess that's the way I'll say it. This in saying that the Seahawks may be one of the most underrated teams in the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense can compete. We saw Jordan Brooks and Mike Jackson get after the entire right side of the field against Darius Slayton, Tanner Hudson at times. Saquon couldn't run right at all in this game. So I like them attacking short passes. If the run game continues to explode, you see Kenny Walker take another couple steps forward. Gino is still super accurate. This team could go places. They're currently leading the NFC West. Gino was 23 for 34, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns. Walker only had 51 yards and a touchdown. Saquon had 53 yards and a touchdown for the comparison. Lockett was 5 for 8, 5 catches, 8 targets, 63 yards, 1 touchdown, dropped a second touchdown. Metcalf was 6 catches on 10 targets, 55 yards. He also had a touchdown. Metcalf is sneaky good as a wide receiver. I feel like you can kind of target Tyler Lockett, but it may not go well. So Giants are on bye. Seattle, I think, plays an important game against the Cardinals now next week. Another game that I will probably be fairly excited to keep tabs on.
Yeah.
The Cardinals played well against Minnesota, as we'll talk about. Did not do well in other areas. Their offensive line was beat up, though. Seattle attacks the weakness. So that's the pass game or the strength for Arizona is their pass game. So make it their weakness. Anything else for you from this one?
No, really liking Seattle.
All right. Next game, 49ers and the Rams. 49ers win this one 31-14. I say the big story on this one is CMC coming alive, and the 49ers doing what they do best. This is a team that can score 30 points and hold you to 15, kind of just like what we saw against the Rams. The Rams scored all 14 of their points in the first half. I think they were scoreless in the second half, and they only had 58 yards of total offense. 49ers scored 24 unanswered points. So, and it gets rough. CMC ran, caught, and threw for a touchdown. He's the first in the NFL to do that in the same game since LaDainian Tomlinson in 2005. I don't know if anyone is familiar with LaDainian Tomlinson. You should be. Garoppolo really, it seems like he has all the tools. And honestly, like Debo didn't even play in this game, and he just said, "Fine, we'll just throw a little bit more to George Kittle."
Christian
Maybe
McCaffrey
throw even a
got
little
9 targets.
Right, McCaffrey got his 9 targets, which I shouldn't say he threw more to George Kittle. He threw less to Kittle. He threw less to Ayuk, and he threw the 9 targets that you have been seeing Christian McCaffrey get all season long, whether here or in Carolina. So to a certain extent, Garoppolo threw 25 times. They're coming from somewhere.
Mhm.
Does it matter if the team wins? No. Does it matter to fantasy teams whether the team wins? No. So, on the other side, Stafford was a lot better in the first half. There's no run game for this Rams team, and I'm confident in saying that. I'm also confident in saying the Rams are officially in the bottom third of the league. And it looks like the Cup injury, which we will talk about, went out with an ankle injury. It does look like he avoided some serious ankle damage there. It looks to be only soft tissue. So at least Cup gets to stay on, but there's a serious need for some composure on both sides of the ball for the Rams. I don't have much else to say about them. It's hard to believe this team and the Bengals went to the Super Bowl last year.
I know.
That's the only thing I'm thinking at the end of week 8. Stafford 22 for 33, 187 yards, 1 touchdown. His first rushing touchdown as well. He had 1 in the air and 1 on the ground. His first rushing touchdown since 2016. The leading rusher for the Rams was Ronnie Rivers, who sounds like a bad 80s cool guy from like the video game arcade. Hey guys, you want to go down and hang out at the video game arcade? No, we can't. Ronnie Rivers is running the gumball machine. He had 8 carries, 21 yards, 4 catches for 15 yards. Okay.
Never heard of this guy.
Never, me neither. They signed him from the practice squad, I'm assuming. Cooper Kupp, 8 catches on 12 targets, 79 yards, and a touchdown. Allen Robinson. Do I still have it on here? Hold on. I don't think I do. No,
This is
it's
2 games in a row.
Oh, yes, I do. There we go. A wild Allen Robinson appears once more. 5 catches on 7 targets for 54 yards. Yeah, we'll just stop that. On the other side for San Francisco, Garoppolo 21 for 25, thumbs up. 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, thumbs up. CMC, get ready for this stat line: 18 carries, 94 yards, a touchdown. He had 8 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown, and he was 1 for 1 in the air with a 34-yard touchdown to Brandon Ayuk. Yeah. 42 fantasy points in our league, probably somewhere in the upper 30s for most others. Brandon Ayuk, 6 for 6, caught all of his targets, 81 yards and a touchdown. George Kittle added his, I think that's his first touchdown, right? First or second for the year. 3 catches, 5 targets, 39 yards.
Second.
Second. Okay. San Francisco's on bye. Good for them. The Rams take on Tampa Bay in what is a game that 1 year ago I wouldn't have missed a minute of, and this year I don't know if I'm going to watch a minute of.
Yeah.
those are just two bad teams. Anything else from this one for you?
No, but I guess just McCaffrey. Holy crap, he is unlocked.
Yeah, like
I guess
we
we'll
knew.
see what happens when Debo's back, but I don't see it really changing this too
What's it
much.
gonna? Debo is not gonna have 8 targets a game. Ayuk's not gonna have 5 targets a game, and Kittle's not gonna have 7 targets a game. They're all gonna have 4, and McCaffrey's gonna have 8, and the team's gonna work around McCaffrey, and that's super smart because they're gonna win. They're gonna win a lot of football games, especially if the defense. The thing is, you have to pick apart that defense.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't force the offense to make plays, if they're allowed to move at their leisure, they'll never lose. Not never, but it's highly unlikely they'll lose.
Yeah.
It
Actually,
just
one more
seems like
note, I guess, Allen Robinson. I'm now a little more back on board. Not the way that I was at the beginning of the season, but this is a good sign.
Stop it. Get some help.
Yes, I do. I personally feel like that when I say that. So we'll see how this turns out.
Yeah, not. I can't. And so here's my thing for holding out on Robinson. Because I won't say it's. I completely 100% disagree with you. Cooper Kupp has taken the slight step back from his 10 to 12 catches a game. It's been second game in a row he hasn't hit double-digit catches. In that time, we've seen Allen Robinson become, like you said, a little more efficient, a little more out there, a little more not dependable, but he's producing.
Relevant.
Matt Stafford isn't still.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So, and they still don't have a run game, which has to be developed. If this team wants to win, you cannot. And I'm sorry, Ronnie Rivers doesn't sound like. I didn't see him play, but it doesn't sound like him and Darrell Henderson are going to be like busting out of the gates.
Williams, I would imagine, is going to become a part of it.
I was getting there, and yeah, I would hope he does. And if he can get the ball moving, good, because that's going to open up a lot of lanes. There's no play action for this team. Go ahead and run it. Like that's as if I'm an opposing defense, go ahead and run it. When Stafford can get back up to 300 yards and throwing it 35 times, and the run game is putting up 80 to 140 a game like it should be, and Robinson is still there doing this. That's fine, because the first thing that they're going to do when it opens up, whether play action or anything like that, it's Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
And then right behind him, in my opinion, has been Tyler Higbee. And that doesn't make me. And now Van Jefferson's back. So there's so many other pieces to that. I want to see what happens going forward. Tampa Bay is not usually a team you do that against, but crazier things have happened. Like Tampa Bay's been better. Yeah. So that's all from this one. We're gonna take our first break. We're gonna come back. I think we only have 3 more games, and then we're gonna go through an express lane. And then the last segment is going to be all about the 9 and the transactions that happened today. This is the trade deadline special. Taylor, sign us out. Something like that. Yeah. All right. And welcome back. Part 2 of the Fantasy Flyer. We're going to keep going with the Week 8 games. Just want to check over and make sure this wasn't one of them. It's not. It's the next game. Dolphins and the Lions. Dolphins win this one 31-27 after looking, we'll say, bad in the first half. It wasn't really bad. Both teams actually were very offensive in the first half. Lions had sparks of their first 4 weeks in the offense that was. Consistently, their defense lets them down. I don't have any trust for any defensive components on that team. The Detroit backfield, I put a mess is a mess in our show plan, and it's not really a mess, but it's all Jamal Williams. And it seems like it was like that before DeAndre Swift got hurt. And he comes back this game and he runs it 5 times. It wasn't effective in those 5 times, but Jamal Williams outcarried him by like double the amount. So I don't know. Jamal Williams he was rumored to be traded. Did not happen today. but I don't understand that. Like DeAndre Swift is so good. What are you doing? I don't understand.
Yeah,
Um,
I was listening to something about this. The team really likes Jamal Williams, which is why they continue to have him involved. This level of involvement over DeAndre Swift, it still seems like Swift is recovering because to your point, he was 1.2 yards per carry average. Like his explosiveness doesn't seem to be there yet. So hopefully give it another couple weeks, which unfortunately some people may not be able to do from a fantasy perspective, but give it another couple of weeks and we should see this turnaround. But yeah, it is a little concerning.
I have the receivers for the most part are trustworthy. Amon-Ra, Swift, it was fine in the pass game. He
Yeah.
had five catches for 27 yards and a touchdown. Like, you got to use your feet there too. So I don't understand. Like, if that's the way it's going to be going forward, then DeAndre Swift's value is touchdown dependent.
Right.
Not to say that he probably won't be touchdown dependent, he won't get those. But that hurts. Like, last year he was running for 100 plus a game. He had the same 5 or 7 catches and he'd score a touchdown in one way or another. He was very, I guess we'll say, Austin Eckler like. Except Eckler never put up really that many yards on a consistent basis. Swift was just there, and I don't know. I understand Jamal Williams is a good red zone back. I don't know if it's an intentional tank at this point, but yeah. Miami, on the other hand, is all Tua, Hill, and Waddle.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be their downfall once someone figures out how to stop that. I mean, they're tied for third in the AFC East. They're 4-4, I believe. I just had it up.
Yeah, where did I put it?
Miami defense eventually stepped up to hold Detroit in the fourth quarter, which again, if there's ways to do it with Jared Goff, and it's becoming easier and easier with Jared Goff to make him not be as dependable as he was. Which, you can't help certain things when you're on offense. You can't, and there's certain things you can control. And Jared Goff hasn't been controlling all of what he was in the first 4 weeks. That's about the easiest way I can say that. Miami ends up gaining the lead, never looked back. Detroit, it seemed like from what I saw in the video footage, and the coach, Dan Campbell, said the same thing. There was no pressure to Tua at any given point in this game. They just kind of let Tua, if Tua didn't screw up, the offense moved. And on top of not hurting Tua, they didn't hurt 1A and 1B. Waddle and Hill ran amok, and it shows. Tua was 29 for 36, 382 yards, 3 touchdowns. Your QB1 in PPR formats this past week. Hill, 12 catches on 14 targets, 188 yards. And Waddle was 8 catches for 9 targets, 102 yards, and a pair of touchdowns. If you were keeping math at home, that's 290 yards to 2 people.
Yeah.
That is 69%. Oop, that's not the button I want. Not that button. I hit the wrong button. Well, that's a boo. I guess we'll boo for the Detroit defense, but there it is. 69. There we go. Had to turn it up a moment. Gesicki 3 for 4, 38 yards, 1 touchdown. Note to self: learn how to use soundboard better. For Detroit, Goff 27 for 37, 321 yards, and a touchdown. Jamal Williams, 10 carries, which that looks like an O and not a 0. It is. 10 carries, 53 yards, 2 touchdowns. Swift had the 5 catches for 27 yards and a touchdown. TJ Hawkinson, 3 catches on 4 targets for 80 yards. Amon-Ra had 10 targets, caught 7 of them for 76. Detroit takes on Green Bay this weekend. Miami, as we just talked about, they're going to be in Chicago for what I think is going to be a much more interesting game than Green Bay versus Detroit, which is the first time I think I would have said that all year up until 2 weeks ago. Anything else from this one for you?
We didn't really talk about Mostert. He's actually not doing too bad, averaging, or at least in this game, averaged 4.6 yards per carry.
That's fair.
So they have something going in the run game, not anything amazing.
He's gonna end up with a couple extra, and literally only a couple. I think like probably 2 or 3, maybe extra run carries and pass attempts. I'll say each one targets and carries. With the departure of Chase Edmonds. Although they did get Jeff Wilson.
They get
in today,
Jeff
too.
Wilson though, yeah.
I
There's
don't know.
he's
I
pulling
don't know
all
why
of
they
his
did
old
that.
friends from San Francisco, McDaniel.
What does he want them all to get hurt? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's all they did in San Francisco.
Right.
It's not good. And I don't know. I want to see how that goes before I don't know why they traded for Jeff Wilson. You're not using Chase Edmonds.
Right.
Jeff Wilson has to see the trade come across in his text message and just go, what the hell? I have to move all the way to Miami so I can do the same thing Chase Edmonds was just doing? Why? I don't know. I mean, he did get some work, Jeff Wilson did, in the 49ers game. So I guess that's fair. Wasn't a lot. Had a couple targets in there. I think he ran the ball twice too. But you can't be thrilled.
No.
You want to be on. Look at the team that the 49ers have built, and then they ship you away. And you're like, oh, come on.
Right.
And now you got to ship me to a division that's got the Bills. Like, come on. Yeah. Next game and the last one we'll talk about in depth, Vikings and the Cardinals. This was another one of our host v host games. The only game we got right, which it's fair to say because the third one is Carolina and Atlanta, which is much more entertaining than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Vikings won this one 34-26. The Cardinals had missing O-line pieces left and right. Like they're missing like the left tackle and their right guard, and there was obviously they were missing every other running back because they don't run the ball except for with Kyler Murray. They were sacked 3 times. Like I think it was Zadarius Smith had 2 of them. Like it just made it a pain for Kyler Murray at times. They still don't have a rush attack at all. Like the one thing the 49ers did by getting CMC is absolutely establish the fact that you can run or pass the ball out of the backfield. There aren't like out of all the other 3 teams in the NFC West, Kenneth Walker can kind of do. He's like a Christian McCaffrey light. There's no one like the Rams and the Cardinals don't have that. Period.
Yeah.
There's nothing, and that leads me to believe those 2 are the like at the end of the season they will be the bottom 2 in the NFC West at this pace, and you're seeing why. The Vikings are getting it done on both sides of the ball. They have both defensive pieces at the D line. Their secondary is not bad. Harrison Smith is perfectly fine, riding out his career in Minnesota, and should be because he's a good safety. Let's put it that way. But they have the pieces to deal with, and I put it in, and I worded it specifically in our show plan this way. They can attack many different archetypes of QBs, whether it's the scrambler, the deep passer, the stand in the pocket and just wait until something shows up or gets sacked. And those are the 2 things. Those are your 2 options. Like they have a lot of different ways to annoy quarterbacks. And I think that's contributing to why they're 7-1.
6-1. Yeah. No,
6-1.
Their right, defense is better than I sort of gave them credit for. And to your point earlier, Zadarius Smith actually had 3 of the 4 sacks.
Okay. So 3 of the 4, like that's a big game.
Yeah.
That's a big game against a quarterback who's mobile. Like that is a game. Like one of the things going into this you could have said is that Kyler Murray, he'll at least be able to run a little bit. Wrong.
Yeah.
He had 36 yards. 36 rush yards. Threw the ball 44 times. 41 of them went to DeAndre Hopkins. But not really. But might as well.
Yeah.
The Vikings showed they were a top, I'd say 8 team in the league in this game.
This definitely bumped them up in my respect and where I see them ending their season.
I'm starting to develop a top, like 8 or 10 teams that are breaking away from the field.
Hmm.
And they're not surprises for the most part. They're really not. Like 49ers, Bills, Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Vikings, Seahawks. Like those are 7 of my 8. I'd still probably put the Giants in there. But they're kind of borderline for me because they are in a tough division they still have to play the Cowboys once and the Eagles twice.
Yeah.
So that's probably going to be 3 L's for the Giants. Other than that,
Yeah.
they could easily end up being 12-5 and missing the playoffs.
Right. I would have thrown the Ravens in there until the past like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep. See, and that's what I mean. Like you're starting to filter through it's starting to turn over. You're starting to see some of the teams that are going to end up in the playoffs, but that's because of the way the divisions are set up, not because they're 10-7 or 11-6 or something like that. So
yeah.
But yeah, with the Vikings getting it done on both sides of the ball, if they defend, they keep their way the Vikings are going specifically, this could be a good off season for them, or good postseason for them.
Right.
Because Kirk Cousins is just as Kirk Cousins-y as he's been. Justin Jefferson only has 1 receiving touchdown this year. 2.
Damn.
He has had 0 touchdowns since week 1.
He had
Receiving touchdowns. He did have
Okay.
a rush touchdown in week 3 or 4.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say he has 2 total from what I can see.
Yep, and 1's rushing and 1's receiving. They're not using him in the end zone, and I think that's really honestly helping him. KJ Osborne had a touchdown this week. Johnny Munt has more receiving touchdowns than Justin Jefferson does. Why? Well, the reason is they're winning.
Yeah.
You throw 2 people on Justin Jefferson, someone else is open, and it works out. As Minnesota, it almost seems like because of this, Kevin O'Connell's this new rookie coach, and he's got a different way of playing head coach. He's got a different way of doing things, obviously, but it seems like they have like this secret weapon approach. Like you can use Jefferson for yak. You can use him middle of the field. He's not using him in the red zone. Is it going to be Cook? Is it going to be Madison? Is it going to be Thielen? Is it going to be Osborne? Is it going to be now TJ Hawkinson?
Right.
Alexander Madison also had a rushing touchdown in this. Osborne with the receiving touchdown. Thielen was 6 for 7, 67 yards. Jefferson 6 for 8, 98 yards. Dalvin Cook 20 carries, 111 yards, 1 touchdown, 5 for 6 in the air for 30 yards. Take that. Cousins 24 for 36, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns. For Arizona, Murray 31 for 44, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions late that really hurt their chances to come back. Hopkins had 13 targets, caught 12 of them, 159 yards and a touchdown. If his return hasn't convinced you that the Cardinals are a different team, then you're not paying attention. Rondale Moore, 7 catches for 8. 7 catches on 8 targets, 92 yards and a touchdown. Zach Ertz, 4 catches for 5 targets, 34 yards, 1 touchdown as well. Everybody got a touchdown. You get a touchdown, and you get a touchdown. Minnesota will play in Washington. I wonder who'll win that game. And Arizona is going to stay at home, take on the Seahawks. I have nothing else for this one. Anything from you, or shall we go to the express lane?
Quick correction. Justin Jefferson has 2 receiving touchdowns from week 1 and 1 rushing touchdown from week 4?
3 or 4. 4.
Yeah.
So he had 2 in week. So he has none since week 1.
No receiving touchdowns. Yeah.
It's working.
Pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, whatever. Like, it's crazy, but so let's see. Cooper Kupp is going to regress a little bit. Jefferson's going to regress a little bit. Jonathan Taylor's regressing a little bit. It's almost like you shouldn't.
A little bit. Jonathan Taylor.
My trade offer still stands. Okay. All right. bazooka pack of bubble gum and a gift card to Wendy's for Jonathan Taylor. Think about it hard.
I told you I need that Dave and Buster's, and then we got a deal.
All right. Well, that might actually be worth it for both of us at that point. Yeah, there's a lot of different there's a lot of different pieces that play into those being correct and staying where they are, and it's like out of the top 5, McCaffrey and Eckler are the only 2 who are top 5 this year. That's it. For running backs anyway.
Right.
We're gonna really go into the express lane. Time to warm up the Jets. Saints and the Raiders. Saints win this one 24-0. They might as well have not played the Raiders. The Raiders had might as well not even flown. I don't know what it is with Alvin Kamara and people from Las Vegas, but he is amazing on the football field. 96 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, ran for 64, had a touchdown on the ground. Renfro and Adams for the Raiders combined for 9 yards. Josh Jacobs was forced to the pass game and then was used sparingly in that pass game because the offense wasn't moving. It was atrocious. It was very bad. Andy Dalton played perfectly fine, kept the team moving, using Kamara. Kamara was using midfield cutbacks like RB slot flag routes, would just run out to the slot and then just cut back to the middle of the field, and nobody was there. Got 2 touchdowns, both of his touchdowns in the air were that on that exact route. So, yeah, Raiders are 0-4 in away games this year. So if they're not at home, it looks like they're not going to win. I don't know. Dalton was 22 for 30 with 229 yards and the 2 touchdowns. Chris Olave, 5 catches for 52 yards. Derek Carr was 15 for 29 with 101 yards. The only person you could play on any or of the Raiders that was decent was Matt Collins. He had 7 catches for 64 yards. Raiders will go to Jacksonville this Sunday in a game I want no part of, and New Orleans will take on Baltimore at the Superdome. I guess I take that back a little bit. Maybe the Raiders and Jacksonville will have a little piece of because both teams are just atrocious, and that means both teams can score 30 points. I don't know. Titans and Texans. Titans win this one 17-10. It really would have been 17-3 if it wasn't for a garbage time touchdown to Dameon Pierce. 2 words, Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
That's it of it. Henry had 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. Malik Willis filled in for Ryan Tannehill by standing there. That said, he only threw the ball 10 times.
Yeah, it was bad.
That's it. I didn't play Robert Woods on my fantasy team because I don't trust the Tennessee offense with Tannehill in there, and Malik Willis doesn't like to throw the ball apparently. So I'm glad I did that. Houston had little in the way of outstanding plays. They didn't score a touchdown until there was 17 seconds left in the game or something, and that was Dameon Pierce. Yeah, Derrick Henry, Dameon Pierce. That's it. I don't know who these teams play next because I didn't look it up. So, you want to help me out there real quick while I move on to the next game?
Sure.
Because I looked it up for the next game. Falcons 37, Panthers 34. We both missed this one on host v host, so I just shoved it in the express lane because we should hang our heads and cry at this one. PJ Walker, probably better than Sam Darnold, definitely better than Baker Mayfield. Falcons threw the ball.
A lot.
Alert the press. Kyle Pitts wasn't useless. Let's do it again. He had actually like a really good game. 5 catches for 80 yards. I gotta look it up now.
Yeah,
5 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. Demir Bird with another long touchdown. If there's a wide receiver 4 ever in football, he's probably it. He doesn't play but like 25% of snaps, but one of the snaps he plays is going to go for like 60 yards.
Right.
So, hey, puppy. DJ Moore had a long touchdown to tie the game. Seems like Terrace Marshall is the number 2. Yeah, it was like 65 yards. It was the longest air pass of the next gen era since 2006. PJ Walker unloaded for 65 air yards. So that's good. Didn't see that in his arsenal. Baker Mayfield's like, yeah, I'll be a backup now. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, Tyler Algier also. I'm starting to think he could threaten some of Cordell Patterson's dominance on the backfield because he's good.
He's all right. He wasn't very efficient.
He's all right. He's all right. He's
mean-
okay. He's not Damian Pierce.
He only had 39 yards on 14 attempts. Caleb Huntley had 91 yards on 16 attempts.
Yeah, but then there's also the pass game.
The pass game, yeah. That's
what helps with Cordell Patterson.
Yeah, no, totally. It's just
so.
I mean,
it's and I say threatening. I'm not saying he's taking anything away.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I could see when Patterson comes back, which I believe is either this week or next week. He's coming off IR, or he's due to come off IR. Or they could activate him, or whatever the 3-week rule is that they imagined up this year. I could see it being 60 to 70 to 30 to 40. I could see that being.
I could see Huntley staying as the 1-2 down and Patterson maybe being like a 2-3 down.
Or a wide receiver.
Or a wide receiver,
or back to like a split slot wide receiver. There's a lot of different ways. To be honest, that opens up a lot of doors for Atlanta. When he returns, because you don't know where they're going to go.
Involved again.
Yeah, he went from a 41% target share through the first 4 weeks. He's down to 30, which sounds like not a lot, except for the fact that is a lot when you only throw the ball 14 times a game.
Yeah.
PJ Walker, 317 yards, 317 yards, long touchdown with some more in there. Dante Foreman is perfectly suitable as a running back. So I'd say he's low end RB2 as a consistent basis. He has high RB2 upside this week. Very good. 118 yards on the ground, 3 rushing touchdowns. It's really RB1. Moore with 152 yards. Terrace Marshall, 4 catches for 95. Do I have that right?
87.
Did I write that? 87. Where did I get 95 from? I don't know. Anyway, still good. Probably the number 2. Fair. Pick him up. Algier had 39 rush yards. Also had 3 catches for 46 yards and a touchdown. Pitts with the 5 for 80 and Demir Bird. Atlanta will stay at home to take on the Chargers. Carolina's traveling to Cincinnati to play the Bengals.
And then, jumping back, Houston plays the Eagles. Titans.
Oh, that's right.
Titans play the Chiefs.
I should have known that because now that you said both of those, I've seen advertisements for both of those games because they're both primetime. Thursday Night Football, Eagles and Texans. I'm going to take the Eagles on like over 20 points and just see if it hits. And then the Chiefs will come back. Interesting. That's actually, is Tannehill back? Maybe Tannehill will be back, and that game could be not a bore fest. Commanders and the Colts. Commanders 17, Colts 16. McLaurin for Washington is trustworthy. Gibson, I think, is kind of coming back into this trustworthy lane again.
He's had 2 solid weeks in a row.
Yeah, there's a pattern developing, so we hope. Gibson had 7 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown. McLaurin had 113 yards. Heineke added a rush touchdown. There's a rough receiving core to trust in Indiana with Sam Ehlinger there because Sam Ehlinger isn't doing anything better than what Matt Ryan was just doing. I don't know if anyone paid attention, but it's still not the quarterback. It's the offensive line. Still the problem. The offensive line is still the problem in Indianapolis. Ehlinger is not much better. Taylor got injured again. I didn't have any updates when I wrote this. I don't think he's in line to miss time.
I didn't see him on the injury report.
Good. That sounds right about right. He came back in. Ehlinger fumbled the ball. He got sacked like 3 times. The offense can't move in the run of the pass game, and it seems like the quarterback wasn't the problem. So I'm going to say that until they stop doing this stupid stuff. Frank Reich needs to get fired. Get him out of there. They started with the offensive coordinator yesterday morning. He's gone. It's almost like they're realizing what I've been saying for 2 weeks is the case. Alec Pierce led the Indianapolis receivers with 3 catches for 65 yards. Taylor had 76 yards. I wrote before he was injured, but I feel like that he got injured in the middle of that and came back, which would indicate why he's not. Would be why he's not on the injury report. Next up, Washington is at home to take on the Vikings. And the Colts. Oh my God, I didn't rate it again. Why am I so? Yes. I traveled. See, I could have looked at the next game below and figured that one out. Because the next game is the Patriots and the Jets. Patriots 22, Jets 17. Mac Jones was okay. Zach Wilson threw the ball. The Jets had no rush attack in this game at all. And I think this is a scores closer than what the two teams actually played. Seemed like the Patriots moved the ball a lot, and the Jets, yeah. New England had 5 field goals. Big takeaway for me. There's 2 of them for the Jets. Tyler Conklin is probably dependable. CJ Uzama's been healthy for 3 weeks now and has like 1 catch. So 2 catches.
Yeah, I mean, Wilson throwing the ball is not where this Jets team wants to be. And with Corey Davis out, they needed somebody else. We liked Conklin earlier in the season when they were throwing the ball a ton. They threw the ball a ton this game, and he was involved. We'll see if that continues depending on how much they throw the ball. Granted, Wilson was under 50% on his completion. So
yeah, I don't even have his completion. What was his
20 for 41.
And he had how many yards?
355, but he had 3 interceptions, which was the biggest. Like that was the huge factor here.
When you don't throw the ball the other 5 weeks, and then all of a sudden you're forced to throw the ball, you're bound to make some mistakes.
Yeah.
It's almost like you should stop depending on the run because you don't have Breece Hall there. Huh. My other takeaway from this from the Jets is that Elijah Moore is super underutilized. And again, him and Melvin Gordon, and maybe I guess you can add Cam Akers to the list because after the trade deadline today, he says it's not quote unquote healthy for his career should he play another game for the Rams. I don't blame Elijah Moore for wanting out of the Jets. I don't blame Gordon for being unhappy with the Broncos. I don't see why Cam Akers is unhappy with the Rams because he hasn't played enough or well enough to make such a demand, but okay. Yeah, the Jets offense is going to be a bit of a question mark the next couple weeks. They could easily fall to the bottom of the AFC East if they're not careful. Stevenson for the Pats, Ramondre Stevenson, he just continuously keeps the Pats rolling. I feel like he's just their best player right now.
Yeah.
Like by a mile. And I see this as being Damian Harris is surely not coming back. Like another sign. Like they're getting used to Ramondre being there.
I mean, Harris did have 11 carries, but Ramondre was so much more efficient with them. And it's not to say Damian wasn't bad with his, but yeah, Ramondre is just a well-rounded back that's getting the job done, and they don't need to use Harris to the level they were before.
Yeah. Stevenson, 7 catches for 72 yards, 71 yards rushing. I put Damian Harris as non-existent, and I think from a fantasy standpoint, he really is.
Yeah.
Jacoby Myers had 9 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. For the Jets, Michael Carter and James Robinson were not effective. They combined for 43 yards on the ground. Garrett Wilson, 6 catches for 115 yards. Conklin had 6 catches for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns. Taking the touchdowns away, I still see that as being a perfectly fine tight end line. The touchdowns, obviously, big bonuses. But and he's had consistent targets the last 3 weeks. Even when when Zach Wilson's not throwing 40 times, he's still getting 5 to 7 targets. So I don't know. I just traded for him last week. I'm going to be happy because he's only $1. So steal right now. Yeah. Doran picked him up for $1, and I was actually going after Dalton Schultz, but seeing this performance, I'm warm either way. New England stays at home to take on the Colts next week. Jets, they stay at home to take on the Buffalo Bills. Oh boy. Eagles and the Steelers. Eagles walked away with this one like expected. The game was over very early. AJ Brown single-handedly outscored the Pittsburgh Steelers. 3 touchdowns, 156 yards. Pickett had 191 yards passing and 1 interception. The one thing I will say, there's been a lot of hate about Kenny Pickett, and it's, you want a little bit more out of him right now. The first 4 games he's played in are not bad defenses. He hasn't had that quote unquote easy week, right? And he's done okay with it, I guess. The team still looks better with him as quarterback than they did with Mitch.
Yeah.
In my opinion, they just look more alive, more fruitful, more not even energized, more threatening, I guess would be probably the better rounding word. Don't sell out on the Steelers and Kenny Pickett yet. That's my take on it. Because there are some people who want to already. Najee Harris, the other problem with this team, like we just talked about with the NFC West, if you don't have a running attack, you're a one-trick pony. And you take out one piece to that, you break one of that pony's legs, and everything comes crashing down. And there's no run attack for the Steelers. Najee Harris is did he have like what did he put on the Leonard Fournette weight? Like what is happening? He's so ineffective in the back, and I don't get it because he's such a good back. We saw it last year. Is he? I don't get it. Jalen Warren is much more effective. I would not be surprised to see Jalen Warren become the starter soon.
Yeah.
The team moves with him. The team moves with Jalen Warren. This is like the third or fourth week, I think. Did Jalen Warren have more carries than Najee?
He did not, but he was over twice as efficient with them. He had 6 carries. Najee had 8.
Okay. So game script helped. So neither one really had a bunch. I thought Warren had more carries than that.
Yeah.
So game script kind of running out, which again, at that point you're a little more one trick pony, but at least it's for what's coming because of the score. They
Right.
can't run when they want to run the ball. Like Jalen Warren, this is probably the third or fourth game this year. Jalen Warren's been twice as effective on a yards per carry basis than Najee Harris has. I just like from the top of my head, I can think of 3 games. So like what? I'm starting to join the Najee Harris needs to sit down bandwagon for now because the team don't look good with him.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't efficient last year either, so he should probably transition to the receiving back, and they should try Warren as the 1-2 punch, or not the 1-2, but one
I don't know.
first, second down.
The one play that I saw from him was not a glorifying one. I don't know. Maybe because I didn't watch this game, so maybe that's just them on Twitter bashing on Najee, but like it didn't look good. He got a pass out in the flat and just he made like a juke move and then stood there and got tackled at like the
Really?
line of scrimmage. It was bad. Yeah, Eagles are good. Steelers are bad. Hurts at 285 yards, threw 4 touchdowns, 3 of them to AJ Brown. Pittsburgh's on bye next week. Philadelphia takes on Houston on Thursday Night Football. I don't have anything else from this one. Do you?
No.
Perfect. Packers and Bills Sunday Night Football. Rodgers is still not Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, that is. I'd say he still performed a little better than I expected. Romeo Doubs came alive in this one. Good to see. Aaron Jones carried it a lot. Good to see. There's really no one else with a huge impact on this game. That's my takeaway from it, from the Green Bay side of things.
It was interesting to see the other rookie, Samori Torre, involved a little bit. Only 1 catch for a touchdown, but 4 targets.
Yeah. It's starting to smell like Christian Watson isn't going to have a huge part of this offense. And I hate to say that. I know he got injured in this game.
Yeah.
But
he came in injured as well.
It seems like his injuries are going to just continue to pile up, and eventually he's going to be a forgotten soul from the Packers, and he'll move on. And I hate to say that because he's still young, and I shouldn't rate out anybody after only 8 weeks, but just from what we've heard from Rodgers and the way the team has handled a lot of his situation, it's not a we don't need you, but it's a you're not going to help. That's my take on it right now. Does that mean in week 10 or week 11 he doesn't have 12 catches for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns? No, but I don't see the Packers as being super appreciative of Christian Watson, and I don't know why. For the Bills, Singletary was the motor for the first 2 drives, and after that it was all Diggs and Allen. I think I said it on Friday show. We definitely said it, actually, both of us. This could be a game where they kind of pull a couple different tools out of the toolkit because the Packers like to take away your strong weapon. And they did it first, and Singletary had like 50 yards, and a catch on the first 2 drives. He was doing perfectly fine, and then he stopped, and they went other directions, and that's perfectly fine, I think. Allen was 13 for 25, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns, did have 2 interceptions. Singletary carried 67 yards. Diggs had 108 yards and a touchdown for the Packers. Rodgers threw for 203 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Dobbs with 4 catches for 62 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Jones carried for 143 yards and did perfectly fine at keeping the Packers moving against a top 3 defense in the league. If you're curious about AJ Dillon, he's probably still watching that game. I don't know where they're going back to Jones. I don't know where Dillon has been. We saw at the end of last year, last like 5-6 weeks, Dillon was it was 60-40 to AJ to Aaron Jones.
Yeah,
And
Dylan's
we
just
saw
not as
the first-
explosive.
Yeah, we saw it the first 4 games or so this year, first 4 or 5 games, and now it's okay. Well, where'd he
Yeah.
go?
He's a big dude, a downhill runner when he wants to, or when he gets the opportunity. And he was efficient this game, but it's just they need somebody who's explosive and can really make some plays, and that's Aaron Jones, especially in the passing game for them.
Right. What else was I gonna say? Green Bay. They're gonna take. Did I? Yeah, they take. I put Minnesota. That's a lie. It's Detroit. Green Bay is at Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit.
Buffalo is at the Jets, taking on the Jets. And Jets in East Rutherford, MetLife. Anything
Yeah.
else for this one? I'm not surprised the Bills won. I honestly thought it'd be a little bit bigger than this
Yeah, me too.
as far as a lead. So
One thing we talked about over the Bills bye week, which they just came out of, was more usage out of James Cook, and we did see that. And then also I kind of hinted at this with my fantasy flyer, Khalil Shakir. He did get 2 looks, but didn't do anything with them. So we'll see if that continues to trend upwards. But you like to see that he got more usage over Isaiah McKenzie in a game where they didn't throw the ball that much.
indeed. We are going to take our last break here before we hit section 3. We only got one more game to go over real quick to finish off our Express Lane. We're going to do the 5 fantasy flyers, and then we're going to hit our 9 hard. If you have some time, we'll play some waiver wire name game. Taylor, sign us out for this one.
See you on the side.
And welcome back to part 3 of the fantasy flyer. Real quick, we'll just finish off. I don't even really have a whole heck of a lot to say about this game from last night. So Browns and the Bengals. I was probably in the large minority who thought the Browns would win this game.
Yeah, I favored the Bengals, but it seems like not having Chase really hurt them.
That wasn't even my reason for picking the Browns. So on the Facebook group that does all the picks, I had the Browns picked out. That was like my 4th or 5th game that I had picked from the weekend, and I put that in last Thursday. Cincinnati seems like they don't move the ball without Jamar Chase, which is incredible because they have so many other pieces that we talked about. Hayden Hurst and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and yeah, they didn't do that. The Browns, I think that was a huge win though for the Browns because it really keeps them alive in the AFC North because no one is really pulling ahead. It's almost like no one wants to win. It's amazing. I think the Ravens are Ravens are 4 no, are they 4-4? I don't even know who is leading the standings in that because it's so bad. Ravens, Bengals, and Browns. I know the Steelers aren't in it, but like they're all within like a game of each other, right? Bengals are
4-4, Browns are 3-5, Ravens 5-3, Steelers 2-6. So yeah, it's all like
they're
boom,
all
boom,
a game
boom.
apart. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could change easily. I don't know. Myles Garrett and Cleveland defense. They were putting pressure on Burrow and annoyed him, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how he wasn't good. They didn't score any points until the second half.
Yeah, the 4th quarter.
Yeah. Boyd and Higgins both had touchdowns. For Cleveland, Nick Chubb had 2 running touchdowns. Amari Cooper had like 7,000 yards and a touchdown. And stopping at 131.
Yeah.
It's still, he's like a wide receiver 4 on the week. Good for him. Yeah, not surprised by a whole heck of a lot of any of that myself. I know a lot of other folks probably were. If I only had one of my other games right, I would have been in for the pool. That sucks. Where do these guys play this week? I don't even. They're not on bye. Cincinnati takes on Carolina. I know that.
Yeah, and Cleveland takes on the Dolphins.
No, that's Chicago.
Oh, they must have a bye. I'm sorry.
Okay. Cleveland.
Yes, they do. I put that down here.
You did. You did. Well, good thing that's up next. Real quick, we'll update the 5 fantasy flyer winners. 5 fantasy flyer winners. 5 fantasy flyer winner. The winner of the 5 fantasy flyers.
There we go.
There we go. Words are still difficult. You took this one handily with your Garrett Wilson and Latavius Murray double up. Khalil Shakir and Harrison Bryan got you 2 goose eggs, but it doesn't matter because I had Marquez Callaway, Hayden Hurst, Irv Smith, and Sammy Watkins, and none of them did very well at all. Irv Smith and Hayden Hurst were fine for tight ends. 8 and 7 points respectively, 7 and 8 points respectively, whatever. But Latavius Murray had 13. Garrett Wilson, huge game for you. So you get the 15 points. To wrap it all up with our host v host results, going into next week, I have 90. I feel like I wrote that number wrong. Nope, that's not. I have 97. You have 68. So you closed in by 15 points. Much needed. Much needed,
Yeah.
sir. So we're gonna go through the 9 we've saved for last, and for most of this segment, we're gonna go through the injuries real quick, and then we're gonna talk about these transactions and end with a waiver wire name game going into week 9. So do you mind if I do the 9? You mind if I do the
Go for it.
injuries? I feel like I'm rolling with it right now. So the buys this week: Cleveland Browns, Dallas Cowboys, Denver Broncos, New York Giants, Pittsburgh Steelers, San Francisco 49ers. So that means no Amari Cooper, no Nick Chubb, no Zeke, no Pollard, no Lamb, no Dak, no Russell, no Dulcich, no Judy, no Saquon. I don't know if there's anybody on the Steelers who you're starting religiously. And then there's no Debo, Kittle, CMC, or Garoppolo this week. For the injuries, real quick, Gus Edwards for Baltimore has a hamstring injury. They play on Monday.
Mhm.
Is that true? Who do they play? Is that New Orleans?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know that was a Monday game. He's questionable day to day. He could play Monday. I feel like I don't know if that matters or not. I like the team looks a little more flexible with him back there. So important to watch out for that though. If not, going to be more Justice Hill and Kenyon Drake. And can you trust either one? Maybe. I don't know. For Houston, Brandon Cook took a non-participant in practice on Tuesday, which got all of us thinking he was traded. He was not. He took a personal day, as did Coach Lovie Smith. Nico Collins also. I think my cat's getting into something. Nico Collins has a groin injury. He's questionable. Did not practice Tuesday. Seems unlikely he will play on Thursday. On short weeks, that's kind of how that works. Usually he gets ruled. Those ruling outs, getting ruled out. Good God, grammar, punctuation, bad. Usually they'll get ruled out Wednesday before they even get close to injury submit. For the Chargers, Keenan Allen also with a hamstring. He was questionable. Did not practice Monday. Seems week 9 is still in question after he sat out the second half of week 7. Had a bye week 8 here, just coming off of that. Felt like he couldn't accelerate off his injured leg. It's almost like what he said before that game in week 7 was so true. He's like, well, I'd rather wait until week 9. And then he goes out and it almost like he jerked it or something. I don't know. For the Rams, Cam Akers, who has all of the personal problems, he's questionable. I guess he's hoping for a fair resolution, but prefers not to suit up for the Rams this year after not being traded. I don't know if he knows this, but that's not going to help his value anywhere.
Right. Yeah, at this point, he hasn't shown anything that's going to make somebody want to go after him and make him the piece of their offense.
Like if I'm the Dolphins, I would have liked to trade for him over Jeff Wilson until you saw that. Elsewhere for the Rams, Kyron Williams, ankle injury. He's questionable. He could be activated off of IR ahead of Sunday's game versus the Bucs. It's worth noting he did manage to work out pregame last Sunday against the 49ers. Cooper Kupp ankle did not injured severely. It was a soft tissue injury. He's not on the injury report and is expected to play Sunday versus the Bucks, which is good because if you don't have Cooper Kupp, you don't have an offense. Sorry, Rams fans. Minnesota, Irv Smank. Good heavens.
I like that. I like that.
I just mixed the words ankle and Irv Smith, and that's a good one. That's, oh boy. All right. Irv Smith, high ankle sprain. He's going to be out 8 to 10 weeks. He's going to IR. There is a good chance that you don't see him until the playoffs. That's just that's my go-to on that one. I don't know why they bring him back for weeks 18.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Well,
make any
and
sense.
now we'll get into it later, but they have Hawkinson, so I don't know
Yeah.
if he'll even be that involved.
Well, it's a good one either way. So that's a good. They both have blocking and pass catching abilities. I don't think Hawkinson immediately rules out Irv Smith, or should I say Irv Smank. Adam Thielen has a bruised knee. He's questionable. Keep an eye on that going forward because that's a huge boost to KJ Osborne and TJ Hawkinson in his debut this week if Thielen is out. For New Orleans, Mark Ingram, MCL sprain. He is doubtful, expected to miss 3 to 4 weeks. The way Alvin Kamara played, I don't think I care.
Yeah. Just an extra boost to Kamara.
Yeah. For the Jets, Corey Davis is an MCL sprain. He's day-to-day with a chance to play this week. And that's it for our early week 9. Well, for the injuries, it's the I and 9, because we're going to get on to the news and etc. very shortly. Obviously, it's a lot bigger as we get towards the Friday show, and we'll update you on a lot of other things. The Houston injury news we noted, there doesn't appear to be any for the Philadelphia Eagles, so that's good. Nothing huge. Had a pretty easy win against the Steelers, so I'm not surprised there. Moving along, we'll talk about the transactions today. This is the juice, the meat and potatoes of the show. It is the trade deadline special, so we're going to go over the trades that happened today. If you didn't catch all of them, if you didn't catch any of them, we're here to fill you in. So the first trade really came out yesterday, right? That was the Roquan Smith trade, or was that this morning?
I'm pretty sure.
There was one trade
actually-
that happened yesterday, and I don't remember what it was, and I was going to add it, and I forgot to. So either way, the Bears traded Roquan Smith, their 25-year-old all-pro linebacker, to the Ravens for a second-round pick this year and a fifth-round pick this year. The Ravens have a really good linebacker crew now. Patrick Queen is in there. I looked at it so much too. Roquan Smith, obviously, you cannot ever sleep on Roquan. That defense looks scary now.
Yeah, I mean, just adding him alone is very, very solid.
Calais Campbell is the other one. Jason Pierre-Paul, Justin Houston, Odafe Owe. Their defense, their front seven specifically, is loaded. They just have to now stop everything else, because the one thing the Baltimore has always given, not always, but this year they've given up is wide receivers. They've given up point after point to wide receivers. Even if you put pressure on the quarterbacks, it hasn't worked out great for them. So for the Bears collecting the picks, we'll circle back to the Bears and their other trade that they made today, but collecting the picks, you would think they have like so many picks and so much money in space this offseason, they can make a big splash. This team may look very different. The other trade that they made, which I guess we'll just talk about it now. The Bears traded a 2023 second round pick, their own, not the one they got from the Ravens, their own pick, to the Steelers for Chase Claypool. My initial thought on this is a much needed wide receiver boost for the Bears. Justin Fields. It also is a signal to me that they're signing up for Justin Fields long term.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think especially after the past couple of weeks, the way that they've been using him and the way he's been playing, I think that they've finally figured out how they should have been using him, which we've all sort of known. I don't know why they didn't do that, but yeah, he definitely seems like he's going to be a key part of their team moving forward.
And he should be.
Exactly.
The way he's played is just He's finally taken what I said when we did our first show at week 1. I said I want to see Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, these second-year quarterbacks take a huge step forward. And it's ironic that Justin Fields looked like he didn't do that, and Trevor Lawrence did for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
And now the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's completely 180 for both. I
Yeah.
would put Justin Fields as having the higher ceiling, and it just looks a lot more promising for the Bears going forward. And the records seem to indicate that, despite the fact they're really not that far apart. So I like what the Bears did. They gave up, they picked up a 5th round pick through this. And, you might say trading Roquan Smith for Chase Claypool is not something I would ever invest in. But Roquan Smith was expensive. Chase Claypool, he's not done enough to demand high level money for a wide receiver.
Yeah.
I think they have him in the right spot where if he asks for too much money, here's what we're going to give you, or you can take your chance on the market where you're not going to get that much. I think this is a clear sign to him that the Bears value him more than what the market will. They definitely value him more than what the Steelers will. And I think that Mooney and Claypool can be a very, very good combination for Justin Fields. Herbert and Montgomery, like we talked about during our week 8 review, they just seem to be perfectly fine, more or less splitting running back work, plus or minus here and there for one side or the other. I like what the Bears did. Do I think it makes them a contender now? No. But I don't think that was the intention, because there's really no competing, right? Like, you have a 6-1 or 7-1 Vikings team that
6-1,
is
yeah.
looking very good. Like, you barring some huge injury to some key pieces there, that team's going to end up finishing with 11 or 12 wins.
Yeah.
So
No, I like this move as well. I do feel like this 2nd round pick for Chase Claypool was high, but I mean, they have a lot of picks. They're a young team. If they want to get somebody with some experience to sort of get them through another year or so before, as they build people up, they don't have a number 1 receiver. They just have 2 sort of
number twos
at best, like Mooney's a great down the line outside fast threat. Claypool is sort of a gadgety guy, if you will. Yeah, they obviously need more pieces.
passes.
He can throw touchdown passes.
He had a touchdown pass to Derek Watt this past week in the Eagles game. The only touchdown.
It was a wobbly one, but yeah, I did see that. It was a cool. It was on a 4th down. Yeah, it was a cool sort of trick play that they did. No, yeah, I like this move for them, and like I said, they have a lot to do here, but it's a fine move. It's just a little more pricey in terms of the pick than I would have personally done.
Yeah. Well, so here's the way that I'm thinking. So thinking about it this way, Roquan Smith was in the money, is in the money. He's looking for a big money contract. So Chase Claypool, I believe, is a year off from asking for money.
I think so.
And so you have to assume, one, that the Bears think they can find something close to Roquan Smith on the market or in the draft. Could be true, could be not. I know there are some good edge rushers coming into this 2023 draft class. With that being said, giving up the 2nd for Claypool is a high price for getting one of those in the 2nd round, because you probably could have got one of those edge rushers that you lost. But comparatively to a wide receiver standpoint, where most of those wide receivers, I would say right now, in my opinion, I haven't looked over the whole draft class. I would say right now there's 3 to 4 wide receiver standouts next year. A lot more quarterback standouts and even a couple defensive ones. I would only say there's only 3 or 4. Butte, Smith and Jigba, a couple others they're really good wide receivers that are probably going to go in the 1st round. Do the Bears want to spend 1st round capital on that? Maybe, maybe not. Something to worry about in the spring. But I think it sets them up more for that long term. Do we think we can find a better edge rusher or wide receiver through the draft? Well, they have more outs considering the draft, if you look at it, for an edge rusher than I do a wide receiver. So that would be that's my take on it. Moving on, Lions made a move today. Vikings did as well. Lions traded TJ Hawkinson, a 2023 fourth and a 2024 conditional fourth round pick to the Vikings for a 2023 second and a 2024 fourth. I think the Vikings handily won this trade. I don't know where Hawkinson is in his contract, which is the one thing that he's got to be close to due for money too, right?
I would think so. Yeah, how many years has he been in the league?
That's great.
4,
I'm gonna
3,
literally
3.
Google his contract right now. Let's see. No, he's a 2024 UFA. So he is due. Wow. Interesting. Most of his money was converted to a signing bonus, so the Vikings are only picking up $536,000 of the rest of his salary this year. Yeah, they really won this trade. 9.3 million is the salary next year for his base salary, which again will probably can be converted into a signing bonus at some point to save up cap space. But yeah, this is getting TJ Hawkinson and a set of fourths for a second round pick and a fourth round pick back. The conditional fourth round pick, I imagine, can become a third based on performance incentives. That'd be my gut. That's usually what most of those conditional picks become, as we'll talk about later with the Falcons trading. That's a surprise name. But if that's the case, like if that becomes a third, like steal, huge steal. Hawkinson is such a good route runner. He can still block. And it's another weapon for Kirk Cousins. If this team wasn't a danger before this trade, which they're 6-1, that offensively, at least they're pretty impressive now in my book. You can throw it to Thielen, Cook, you can throw it to Jefferson, Hawkinson. Don't sleep on KJ Osborne. I steal for the Vikings.
Yeah. No, this is huge for them, especially after losing Irv Smith. I feel like Hawkinson is a better tight end in general than Irv Smith.
Yeah.
Irv Smith isn't bad. We've seen a lot of potential from him, but unfortunately he continues to get hurt, so we never really truly get to see what he can be. Hawkinson has shown a lot of promise, obviously. So
I don't understand where the Lions placed his value, but I'd say they undervalued him largely for this. I don't understand. I just don't. That's my whole take from this. If this becomes a third and a fourth, you've essentially traded up one round and gave away TJ Hawkinson for it.
Right. Yeah, doesn't seem like a fair trade to me, but
oh well. Like the Lions front office is, heavy on the sauce early today, I guess. I don't know. Next trade, Steelers, they got Will Jackson III from Washington, which sounds super insignificant, but and it kind of is for the most part. Will Jackson wanted out from Washington. Steelers end up getting him. I didn't see what the compensation was. The big thing for me in this is that the Steelers get some much needed pass protection as a cornerback. He wasn't really getting a lot of playing time in Washington, but the one thing the Steelers just got burned for 150 yards to AJ Brown. If you have another piece out there, like you need to stop passing. Like you need to force people into your heavy front seven and you're not. They're passing around it and it's just working. So a small improvement for the Steelers. I'm not going to dwell on it too much. The next one is a rather big one. Broncos trading Bradley Chubb and a 2024 fifth round pick to the Dolphins for Chase Edmonds, a 2023 first round pick, and a 2024 fourth round pick. Hard to say who's the real winner here. Bradley Chubb is looking for big money, and I think from what I've read, the Dolphins plan on giving it to him. The Broncos, on the other hand, saved a bunch of cap space. They already have some really good linebackers there. Joel Josie. Wow, I'll keep mixing up words the rest of this show. Jewel Josie has been amazing for I think he's a third-year linebacker. Really improved. You still have Randy Gregory sitting there, who's coming back soon, I believe, from injury. There's a lot of different pass rushers that are sitting there in Denver. I see this as a smart move for Denver. They got a first round pick next year, which they gave away all of in the Russell Wilson trade, and that hasn't turned out ideal. And they get a running back who has had 70 or 80% of carries on his plate at one time. And they move up a later round. They get a 4th instead of a 5th round pick in 2024. So they save money. They get a running back. They get a 1st round pick. Win for the Broncos. For Miami, they get a heavy linebacker presence that is probably, I would say, much needed. I don't know if there's any other, for a team that's going to end up having, like, your opponents are going to end up having to throw against you. That's a big pickup.
Yeah.
Because you need some sort of spark there, even if he does cost you a bunch of money. Jerome Baker, I mean, he's definitely an improvement over Andrew Van Ginkel. Jerome Baker and a Landon Roberts, perfectly fine as linebackers. It's actually kind of scary at that point. You look at those 3 linebackers. So I really like this trade for both teams.
Yeah, same. I mean, Chase Edmonds hasn't been great this year, but we've seen some stuff from him in the past. I guess that's not technically part of. Was it part of this trade or was it separate?
What?
It was. Yeah. Okay. The Chase Edmonds part. For some reason, I thought it was separate. But anyways,
no, same trade.
Yeah, they need some running back help, obviously. At least someone who could really. I don't want to say solidify that part of their game, but they don't have an identity there right now. Whether or not Chase Edmonds is the answer, we were talking about this before. He's kind of what we see as more of Melvin Gordon's on his way out. Latavius Murray's just kind of filling a role right now. Once they get Javonte back, Javonte and Chase, that's not a bad combo, assuming Javonte is more of basically the bell cow, and then Chase kind of just fills in here and there. And Chase, we've seen be capable when he is sort of filling in as the number 1. I don't know what happened in Miami, but he's better than what we've seen. So yeah, this is not bad for both teams, especially you consider the Broncos have other pieces. They're kind of it's weird. They're kind of in a rebuild in a way, but they're not. They gave up so much for Russell that they really need to kind of find value elsewhere.
Yeah, and that's trading away pieces like Bradley Chubb.
All right.
Yeah, I feel like I agree with you. And the Sets are coming out of that rebuild, but they're like finding a hard way to which direction do I step out of it. Almost. Yeah. All in all, very good. The next trade caught me by surprise. I don't know if when this one came across your dashboard, I was like, wow, okay. Falcons they're stretching in any direction. The Falcons traded, when's the last time we talked about this name? Wasn't on this show. Calvin Ridley to the Jaguars for a 2023 5th and a 2024 4th rounder that is conditional. So first, let's talk about the Jaguars taking on Calvin Ridley, because this is a next year thing, right? Where does he slot in for you in this wide receiver core?
I mean, he's solidly the number 1.
You think he's ahead of Christian Kirk?
I don't see how he can't be.
3 more years on this contract.
Yeah, I mean, money-wise, it would say Christian Kirk, but once you get Calvin Ridley out there, I don't see how he's not the number 1. And I don't know that it necessarily means that Kirk. I shouldn't say I don't know. Christian Kirk is still going to be involved. I think it obviously only helps the offense be more well-rounded in the passing game, and it may even help Kirk to be a little more consistent, because now he's not the one that the defenses are focusing on. And Ridley is someone that can handle that defensive focus and still be productive. So, I mean, I think this is a good move for Jacksonville. It's just kind of funky and unexpected from the Falcons' perspective.
I mean, I just wanted to look this up real quick to make sure that I was right when I wrote this on my note sheet, and it is true. The only wide receiver who is not coming back next year right now, based on contract, is Marvin Jones.
And that's fine.
Yeah, no, that's a huge improvement. So,
Yeah.
Especially if the conditionals pick up, which we'll talk about shortly.
Yeah.
But that would be Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, not in that order, but those would be your three wide receivers.
And Evan Ingram as a tight end. All right.
His contract expires.
Dan Arnold.
Wait, I want to say he's right there with him. Where did I read Dan Arnold? Just because they're both out.
Okay.
They're both free agents in 2023. So there's a little tight end spice for you. It's a spot somebody can go. The conditions for this, though, are interesting for the Falcons. They took, I think they put the gamble on the Jaguars for this to work out long term.
Mm-hmm.
The 2023 fifth is straight up. The 2024 fourth round is conditional. It's a fourth round pick if he's just on the roster. It's a third if he hits performance-based incentives in 2023. So if he does well enough in 2023, it'll become a third round pick. If he gets an extension with the Jaguars in the summer of 2024, spring to summer, that 2024 pick will become a second.
Right.
So that'll obviously happen before the draft because he would be a free agent by draft time 2024. If not. So interesting to note that they're putting their money on Calvin Ridley while shipping him away. They're like,
right.
go be somewhere else because you're going to bet on them and not us.
Yeah. I mean, they know how good he is. I guess, honestly, the problem here is if Trevor Lawrence continues to step forward, which he seemed to, and now he's kind of stalling. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing about this is next year, this for the Falcons, this has to mean that Drake London is their number one. It has to mean that they plan on getting some sort of a quarterback up. I don't know if it's Desmond Ridder. I don't know. But they also have a hole there for a wide receiver. So interesting for that one. Next trade, 49ers traded Jeff Wilson to the Dolphins for a fifth round pick. This one's pretty straightforward. I don't know what to make of this trade. It's just, I assume he fills the Chase Edmonds role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot for it.
Yeah.
49ers pick back.
Right. I mean, like I touched on earlier, McDaniel coming from the San Francisco coaching staff knows Jeff Wilson, obviously knows Mostert, who's already there. So it's just reuniting someone who already knows their game plan and system offensively.
And the last one that I will talk about, Colts trading Nyheim Hines to the Bills for Zach Moss and a conditional sixth round pick. I think this is the Colts betting on betting on Zach Moss and the Bills needing better pass catching. And I think that's about out of the backfield specifically. Let Singletary run the ball, use Nyheim Hines. The conditional fifth will probably be performance based as well sixth to go to a fifth. The conditional pick is a sixth to go to a fifth based on performance. I am surprised, but also I'm not. Like Nyheim Hines was getting a lot of calls. Good for the Bills. I mean, that's one hole they can fix. They don't have many of them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Moss was getting sort of phased out, so it doesn't really affect them that much. Go ahead.
I will say that this is for the James Cook drafters, you have to be a little concerned.
Right.
The worry has to be going in your head that this may not be a fruitful pick that I have made.
Yeah, that's the part that's a little confusing to me is we saw his usage increasing. He's a talented, or at least seems to be talented. But Nyheim Hines is also very talented receiving back. So at this point, I would say Hines, the better receiving back, at least experience wise. I don't know if Cooks will overtake him, but as of right now, if I guess the Bills are saying we need that little bit of extra piece that they've been wanting a receiving back. So if they want
Right.
somebody now that has the experience and the capability to do it, that's Hines, and that makes sense for their team. For the Colts, I don't know why you want Zach Moss. I would have tried to get something else out of this, but okay.
Fill in the blank there.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are most of the trades that went down. There were a couple other defensive trades that went down that don't, on a fantasy standpoint, don't really match up. There's a couple pick swap. The Jets sent a defensive end out. Cameron Marlowe got traded to the Bills from the Falcons for a 7th-round pick. Yeah. Smaller trades like that. 10 all in all, 10 went down today. A healthy trade deadline, and now we get ready for the fantasy trade deadline come in the next few weeks. So to end this episode, we got about 6 minutes left. We're gonna go with the name game. I'm just gonna give you the 5 quarterbacks that I think are gonna be they're good waiver wire bets this week based on matchup. My 5, PJ Walker is number 1. He's played 2 weeks in a row very well. Put some faith in him, I guess. Andy Dalton, been very solid. Plays Baltimore. Baltimore lets wide receivers go. Direct correlation to quarterback fantasy points. Justin Fields, why not? He's going to have to throw it a little bit more against Miami, and at worst, he's going to get creative. All good for Justin Fields. I see 22, 23 fantasy points out of him. Jimmy G is number 4 for me. I'm all about Jimmy G this week, especially if Debo comes back. Let him up. Actually, that's a stash. Excuse me. That's next week.
Yeah,
You can still stash him. Jared Goff is number 5. Mariota is kind of like a questionable one. He still doesn't throw enough for me to put a lot of trust in. Jared Goff also throws an interception, so you can take a stab with either of those two. But real quick for a waiver name game for the other 3 positions, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Would you rather have Deontay Foreman or he's the best option out of all
I was
those?
gonna say there's not a lot here,
There's
but
not an option. He's pick up Deontay Foreman. That's
well, let's start with this: Foreman or Hubbard, if Hubbard's back and healthy.
Foreman.
I feel that way too. It's weird that Hubbard was the starter when they first both took over, but the way that Foreman played that week and the way that we've seen him play, I agree. Foreman.
Yeah.
It's just a little concerning, I guess, that Hubbard was the starter that week.
Chase Edmonds when Denver plays again, or Nyheim Hines.
Hines.
Okay, taking the pass catch on the Josh Allen, trustworthy. I like it. Kyron Williams is a stash. You can stash Rashad White. Latavius Murray's a 50-50. You have to wait and see what happens with Edmonds. If those two are in, Melvin Gordon's out. If any combination of the two is in, the other one's probably out. They don't run the ball enough for me to take a bunch of gamble on them. Isaiah Pacheco is still, if you had a good opportunity in the last week to pick up Pacheco because of the bye week, if he was still available, you should still do that. Kenyon Drake if Gus Edwards is out.
Yep.
For the wide receiver, Devin Duvernay or Terrace Marshall for you?
Duvernay. He's more. Marshall missed almost his entire rookie season. Duvernay's more experienced. Duvernay's getting better usage so far. PJ Walker not as talented as Lamar Jackson. Definitely Duvernay for me, but I do like the idea of snagging Marshall if you're really hurting at wide receiver.
Chase Claypool or Kadarius Toney?
This one's tough. I think I'm leaning Claypool for the first week or two, but I think down the road, Toney is going to be, everybody's calling him the next Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. He's got to get a connection with Mahomes for that to happen. So that's going to be a few weeks before that even becomes any like remote possibility. I think he has the talent and the ability, but he doesn't stay healthy, and he needs to make that connection with Mahomes, which is going to take time.
Yeah, I'm going to take Toney in the same respect. Like first week, Chase Claypool, just because of the experience, the on-field factor. Toney has someone who throws so much better, so much more accurate, and he has the speed to pull it off. He's going to blossom quickly, I feel. We got only a little bit of time left. Wide receivers you can pick up and trust: Rondale Moore, Devin Duvernay. Treylon Burks, you can, if you've been on your waiver wire, you can take another stab. I want to see more throwing out of Tennessee before I put a lot of stock in him.
Right. But they don't
Josh
have
Palmer.
anybody else.
Right. Terrace Marshall, huge name you could pick up. He's probably the wide receiver 2 in Carolina. Romeo Dobbs, Josh Palmer, Chase Claypool, Kadarius Toney on our wide receiver list. For the tight ends, I'll just list them and give you a couple stats about them. Tanner Hudson's a stretch, but if you need to, the best names to pick up right now are probably Cade Otton, Evan Ingram, Tyler Conklin, Greg Dulcich. Greg Dulcich is averaging the 5th most points per week this year on 3 weeks. So he's the tight end 30 already. He's played 3 weeks. He's the tight end 30 on the year through 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
This next game, he will almost definitely pass Mo Alley Cox, Granson, Dalton Schultz, because bye. Actually, no, he's on bye too. So that'll be a nice race.
That's true.
Yeah, they're both on bye. But Dulcich is really picking it up in Denver. I'm heavy on him. I'm so glad I drafted him. Cole Kmet had his first touchdown in 2 years against the Cowboys. Hey, take a fly. He's officially flyer worthy now. I'm okay with it. Isaiah Likely as well. Out of your group, that group, which is your favorite?
By far, Dulcich. But let's say we rule him out. Cade Otton with Cameron Brate out is 5+ targets every week that Cameron Brate's been out. If Corey Davis is out again, I really like Conklin.
Yep.
And then again, Mark Andrews out, likely lit it up. He's very talented.
For all of the crap we've dealt with the tight end position, there's so much there that you can still use.
Yeah.
That's important. So 45 seconds left, 40 seconds, whatever it is. We are just going to real quick Friday show. Of course, we're going to go through the week 9 games, be a little later because there's 6 teams on bye. So we'll go through, give you your 5 fantasy flyers. We're going to play a game of 4 downs to start off the show. You'll have more news, injury notes, etc. Our 9 segment to start off. Hopefully this trade show has given you a little bit more of a fantasy input on things. I am Derek. I'm going to sign off. Taylor, I'll let you do the official sign off.
Peace out, y'all. Good luck this week.
All right. Hit it.
Bob Bark reminding you, help control the fat